So during this, pick up the guitar, do whatever's natural for you. But,
13th Feb.
It's a nice venue.
Yeah.
I'd forgotten about it.
yeah,
It's clean.
It's clean. It kind of is big but intimate at the same time, isn't it?
It's got like a giant theater kind of a vibe to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Brandon, we good?
Yeah, great. Yeah, so Rob, I know it can't be a simple answer, but when it comes to writing a song, do you have a process? Do you have a methodology?
Yeah, my wife calls it fishing. I go fishing,
Yeah.
you know, because it gets, I think the only difficult thing about it, I mean, you got to imagine, like, I'm not good at really anything else. So when for me, there's something about it that comes natural, like the thought of thinking of a melody and thinking of a lyric, but it's because it's not that special because it's the only thing that I do well. But I like for my wife, she'll be like, what are you doing tonight? And I'm like, oh, I'm just fishing. You know, it just means like trying to find, because it's a weird thing how any same chord on a different day at a different time can all of a sudden strike a different emotion in you and make you feel, you know, differently about it. So if you're just, you know, and you start to feel like it. And then every chord progression has a feeling to it, you know? And in that feeling, somewhere in there is where you're gonna find the lyric, because it's gonna paint a picture with a certain kind of a color and a certain kind of a tone. It's gonna make you happy, or it's gonna make you sad or wistful, and all of a sudden, you just keep, everyone I know has the same kind of thing. And it made me feel good, like to work with someone like a Mick Jagger, and to find that he does it the exact same way. Like, it's not some super secret magic that he has, you know? Like, I mean, it is, but it's but the fact that everybody has this language, it's like a, I don't know, I don't wait, I don't need the sun. I don't let it lightning fall, let it fall. I don't know, I don't need, and you're just kind of like, nonsense, you know? And I've got a phone with like 4,000 of those, like beep, no. And then sometimes they make no sense, at all. But eventually, somehow, that little thing becomes a song.
So is it always with an instrument?
No, I mean, some of my favorite things that I've written, I think, have been just driving down the road. You know, and you turn off the radio and you just start kind of singing to yourself, and you get, like, the best feeling. It's almost like there's a radio station that's playing above your head, and it's playing melodies that you're writing, you know? And so you start humming something to yourself or singing something, and you just tell yourself, you know, I like that. That sounds kind of nice. What is that? And then you go, oh, that's me. Oh, that's cool. You know? And then sometimes it's nice to not have to have the confinement of an instrument. I'm not a great guitar player, and I'm an okay, a little better piano player. But it still has certain limitations because you're thinking in terms of structure. But when you're alone and you're just like free-forming, you can go pretty much anywhere. So sometimes that's the better way to do it.
You have said in the past that songwriting was the first time you felt special.
Yeah.
What was that about?
Well, I mean, I think everybody wants to find something about them that makes them unique. You know, for some people, it could be sports. For some people, it's painting or it's writing. I just think that there's something that kind of connects you to an inside part of yourself, you know, that makes you feel like you want to share it with people. And I mean, obviously, I think there's got to be a little bit of narcissism attached to that, right? Because you also feel like, I think people need to hear this, you know? And so,
a lot of people would agree.
I think you have to have a little bit of that, you know, hey, look at me. Or, you know, maybe if my mother just hugged me more.
When did you hear the voice in your head that said, oh, I've got to get this out, I have songs in me?
I was pretty young. Like, I started singing in bands at like 13 or 14. And like, we would play, you know, these like 18 and under clubs, and we would be like the band for that, and playing, and just mostly like all 80s covers, you know, like, because we were kids of the 80s. And then one day I just started writing, and I wrote, for the first time, I always called it like more like writing from the outside in. They weren't really songs about my life or anything. I was just a kid in high school, and it was weird, and it was the only way that I could meet girls, especially if you grew up in the South and you didn't know anything about sports or anything about cars, you know? Yeah. And so but then one time when I was really young, my mother had cancer, and I wrote, when I was like in my 20s, like maybe 20 years old, I wrote 3 a.m., and it was like the first song that I ever wrote that felt like it was about something. And immediately I could sense that catharsis that kind of came with it, and how it helped me work through these feelings. You know, it's like, I'm not really good at explaining myself sometimes, but if I do it with a melody, that helps carry it along, it makes people kind of understand more the tone of what I'm trying to say.
You said you're good at coming up with ideas. You're not so great at editing them.
Yeah.
What do you mean by
That sounds like a lot of people I know. I mean, I think, you just kind of, you're spouting out without a limiter. But that's why it's always good to have my wife around, and it's good to have a producer, or in the context of working with Matchbox, just having a bunch of mates that you've played with for 30 years that, that you really trust their opinion on something. But it's hard. I mean, I think the writing is always in that way. Like if you're making an album, I'm probably writing 3 albums worth of stuff to get that one album that I really think is good.
Yeah.
And I'll listen back, and sometimes I'm even the stuff I picked, I'm like, I should have waited. That was probably could have done better than that. Or sometimes you'll come back years later to something that you let go and it just wasn't ready yet. So
do you consider, even though you say you don't play it particularly well, do you consider the guitar your friend?
Yeah, well, certain ones more than others. I have. It's funny. I only really play acoustic, so there's something in the wood, I think, in certain guitars. And I had my friend of mine had turned me on to this really expensive acoustic antique, like vintage Gibson, and I was so excited to have it, and I got it, and I wrote it, and for like weeks, and not one song could come out of it. Like it was really felt weird to me. And I came to Australia, I think back in 2018, and I rented a guitar. And I immediately just started writing on it, like song after song after song. And so I was like, I had to pay like a crazy ransom on it for, but in my head, I think it was like, that was a guitar that everybody rented when they came through. So that could have been James Taylor's guitar. That could have been, Ed Sheeran's guitar. But, so I think maybe there was just something good in the wood. So yeah. I think the right guitar can be your friend. The right piano can be your friend,
Any other melodies there?
Also, you look way cooler playing the guitar. Like when I was a kid, I wish that I had taken like piano lessons and really gotten good at it. But when you're a kid, it doesn't feel as cool to play the piano as it does to play the guitar.
Even if it's a guitar with no strings?
Yeah, I think when you're like 6 year old, even you're air guitaring. Very few 6-year-olds are like air piano playing.
That's true. I don't know. Are 6-year-olds actually wishing that they looked cool for girls? Were you at that age?
Oh no, I just wanted to look cool for the attention. Yeah,
right,
I don't think it was for
pretty
girls
simple,
yet. Yeah, I wasn't quite sure. But I don't know though. I was pretty girl crazy early on.
Yeah. But is it true that you had a guitar without strings just to pretend you were in a band?
I did. I would sit in front of a mirror in my bedroom with a guitar with absolutely no strings on it, listening to Jim Croce records and pretending that people were watching me sing. And that was probably when I was like 9.
You started young.
I wanted to be there then. She said it's cold outside and she hands me my raincoat. She's always worried about things like that.
Mum. How do you feel when you play that song?
Before she passed, that was always her favorite song. She had a license plate on her car that said 3 a.m. Mom. We played. She wanted that played at her funeral. So I think it always has a personal attachment for me.
Yeah, of course. Thank you.
Thank you.